Coming up next here on Channel 17, From a Country Garden.
Funding for From a Country Garden is made possible by Lily Ponds Water Gardens, Lily Ponds, Maryland, and Brookshire, Texas. Mail order source for your water garden needs. Garden Way, Troy, New York. Makers of and the mail order source for the Troy-built rototiller and the Tough Cut high wheel mower. And Park Seed Company, Greenwood, South Carolina. Mail order source for flower, vegetable, and herb seed, helping gardens grow since 1868.
Well, it's a bit of a mess, but I think that we can do something with this, Anstice.
I think so. Welcome to another episode of From a Country Garden. Today we are standing in a little patch of ground, which before we bought the farm was a pig pen. The pig pen burnt down, and when we first moved in, we put our rhubarb patch here because we knew it was going to be very rich ground. We moved the rhubarb patch, and then we turned it into a little nursery garden, and now we are going to make a salad garden.
This patch is about 12 feet long by 9 feet deep. It's pretty sunny, but other than that, I think it would be just about the right size for a person who would want a salad garden, perhaps in their backyard in town. I've got a little bit of a sketch map here of what I'm going to suggest we do, Anstice, but this is going to be fairly formal, so do you think we should have an official walkway and make it permanent?
Well, yes, I think so.
Okay.
And I think it would be much easier to plant and to harvest. I think we need 2 little walkways in. I think we need the tomato plants at the back and the climbing spinach. And then I'll be able to handle the beds from the walkway, and I won't have to walk on the actual garden itself, and the pathways will be clean.
So we'll mark those in red, and that will be where we will put our walkway, and we'll be able to reach anywhere, even when it's muddy and so on, something like that.
Now, the first thing, Larry, is to remove all the plants. I've got all kinds of things there, and you'll see there's a fine oriental poppy plant there, and there's gaillardia, all kinds of things which can move out into the other gardens.
Fine. So I will be double digging this as soon as we've cleared this, and by double digging, I mean I've got to go down about 16 inches and do a real job on it, and we're also planning some kind of a watering system so that we can water from back here, and we'll do a sort of watering system of some kind like this, and we'll work out what is needed so that this ground can be kept moist, because it really is perhaps
Larry, you're talking about a seepage system.
A seepage system,
not
absolutely.
An overhead watering,
no, seepage.
Fine. Okay, you want to get started?
Yes, so let's get to work.
Well, I dug up all the rhubarb plants and put them in pots for giveaways, and then I took all the perennials and I transplanted them to other parts of the garden where they will flourish, and then Larry took over.
You'd be surprised the number of rocks that I dug out of this little area, but they're going to be transplanted too, because I'll use them for holding fence posts in place. During the course of my digging, though, I did come across a rather unusual situation. Up came a mouse, absolutely asleep. It must have been completely dormant at the time, hibernating, and it stayed there. I photographed it, and then because it was so still, I put a jam pot on it, and we sent it off to an artist.
And the artist has sketched it, and here we have the little sketching. It has a very long tail.
Now the ground is completely clean. We put some well-rotted manure on the top here, and Antis is going to fertilize it, the whole area, and then I will rototill.
This is a slow-release fertilizer, and I don't think we'll need to give the ground any more during the season. Now, I think we've got this soil in pretty good condition. We've enriched it with plenty of humus in the form of well-rotted manure. We've added some fertilizer, and we've incorporated the whole thing, and it looks as though it's in lovely condition, doesn't it?
Yes. I don't think there could have been very much in here before, though, because I didn't dig up a single worm. However, on the subject of livestock, while raking, I've just come across a little toad that was here, so he must have been rototilled, and he's very live and well, and you can keep going now, Buster. Now, our next step is to put in some fence posts along the back, metal posts, which is going to be our trellis for what Ansis is planning to put in.
I'm going to put in some climbing spinach. I've never grown it before, so we'll see how it does this year. And I'm also going to put in some climbing cucumbers and a couple of tomato plants. But we need the trellis, and that should go in before we put in the paths. Do you need my help?
Well, perhaps you could bring the other one. We're going to put in 3 to make sure that it's reasonably solid and straight, and then we'll put a page wire on top of it. Whoops, I've suddenly gone through, so I guess that I've hit something hard and then it suddenly gave. Okay, we'll put one here, bang in the middle, sort of. These fence posts are just great. I use them all through the summer and the winter for various jobs, and when they're finished with one job, I start on another. A little bit of wire attached here. Now, these things are made with holes at the top, the fence posts, so you can put a little bit of wire through them and hold up whatever you want to. A little bit further out, Ansis. Take a line, will you? Is that right?
Pretty good.
Whoops. I think you can go a little further that way because it's going to be tight. Now, I'll just put it in so much. We'll take our wire and make sure that it's good and tightly strung. I'll thread it through here, this side, like that.
Do you want to do the middle one next?
I think we should do the middle one at the same time.
Are you going to weave it?
Yes.
Wait, and I'll get this one.
Is that far enough for? Right. Now we'll get a pull on that, and I'll get it good and tight. 1 minute. Is that tight enough, or would you like me to go a little further that way?
I think that's fine.
Well, you have to. It's got to go down, so we have to hold that out like that. And go down. Look, mind your hands. There. Now, we can sort that one out a little later, Anstis. We'll put down our boards now for where our paths are going to go. And we've decided that to keep the whole thing a little neat, that we'd put in paths that are roughly 22 inches deep. Now, we've taken a center line.
The center is here.
Right. So we want a 4-foot bed.
We're going to have one wide bed in the middle and a small bed at either side. And that way, from each path, I'll be able to work on either side of the path.
I've got my marks here, and we'll just put in a peg now, Anstis, to mark them. There are the pegs.
Have you got the pegs?
Yep. Do you want me to put them?
Will you? We need 4 more, though, don't we?
No. That's all we need for now. I've just made a little mark on the wood here so as to help with keeping the direction. We'll bang these things in to keep our paths from getting out of kilter. That should be wide enough, I think, for walking through and not waste any space. Tori's come to supervise.
Hi, Tori. You're a good girl. Yes.
I'm just driving in these pegs so that they're the same level as the path, so that they won't snag any lawn mowing that takes place here. Now, what we've done is to more or less sink boxes using old hemlock, or at least rough lumber, quite cheap, and so that it's not a major expense. It'll stay there quite some time. Hemlock will stay in the ground several years. And now the next step is to put black plastic in these boxes and fill those boxes with gravel so we can stand on them and be relatively clean. So, Anstis, do you think you could go to that end?
But, Larry, in order to save weeds growing on the pathways, we put down black plastic first. And that'll keep them absolutely clean, free of weeds.
You got the other end?
Right?
Right.
Yes.
You just stand there so that it doesn't go in. I've got nicely washed stones from a local pit. And what I intend to do is to just fill these boxes now, and when the first rain comes, all the sand will be washed to the bottom and will be left with a nice white stones on top.
Larry, it looks as though the beds on either side are rather high, but in fact they won't be after the ground has settled. At the moment it's fluffed up from the rototilling, and it'll settle quite quickly, and then the beds will be at the same level as the boards around the paths.
As soon as this operation is over, we'll fill the next one, and then we'll be ready to plant. We've laid out here a watering system which to us is new. It's called Irrigro. It's designed to release water in a very controlled manner, which is very useful in places where water could be a scarcity. Now, it comes with a porous hose, which when you open it up, you think you're involved in a ticker tape parade because it's everywhere. You have to be careful. It also has a green plastic header hose, which is attached to your own garden hose. In this case, we've also attached a fertilizer cup so that when the water is turned on, fertilizer, which is put into this little cap here, can be taken down into the hose system. However, another system which for us is a little bit more suitable, I believe, we prefer the idea, is to use a plastic trash can, as you see behind us. And what we've done is to attach the header hose. We've taken the header hose off, and I'll show you what you do. You merely pull it apart like this and put the one part through a little hole that you drill 3 inches from the bottom of the trash can, and then you add the hose on the outside. Make sure it doesn't leak. At the other end, you attach T's as supplied so that you can then push the water through from the green hose into the porous pipe, as you see laid out on the ground. Now, the reason that we rather like this system is that the water warms up in the sun, and so you're delivering a warm water to the plants. And secondly, you can add fertilizer to it as you feel like it. And also, I think that generally speaking, this kind of hose could be perforated if you applied too much pressure from your tap. And as we have a pump that is rather strong, we could break it. So this way, the water is gently left to go through. One final thing, it has to be covered eventually in 3 or 4 days with some form of cover, and we intend to put mulch, but sometimes black plastic could be used. In any case, it would be much more efficient when covered because it could deteriorate in the sun. This white porous hose should last many years. I think that it's going to work out fine, and you'll see it as we go along.
Now that Larry has the seepage system in, it's time for me to get on with the planting. The salad plants should all go into the ground just as early as the ground can be worked, but it is still early for tomatoes. I'm going to take a chance on it because I have a good supply of backup tomatoes. Now, this is where I originally seeded this crop, and this one is one that I transplanted into a pot, an individual pot, on its own, and I'm now going to plant. Now, tomatoes can be planted very deeply. They should be planted very deeply. But they can also be planted at an angle. They do not have to go down straight into the ground. Dig a trench and set the tomato plant. There it is. It's got a nice lot of roots on all around the pot. I will remove the lower leaves and I will put it in like that, lying down, and the roots will form all along the stem that is planted. And by tomorrow morning, this plant will be standing up straight. It'll come up and reach the sun. So that although it looks funny now, it will be fine. As I've done this for years, I know it works. Now the next one I will put in a short distance away, about here, to give lots of space for air between the two plants, and then I will train these as stake tomatoes and tie them to the wire or the post and keep the shoots away, picked away, that form in the axils of the leaves. They will be grown on one stem. Little shoots already appearing there. Now in this section, I'm going to plant these transplant salads. And this is endive, and I'm going to put that in down at the end, and at the very edge, all along the front of the bed, I'm going to plant nasturtium, because nasturtium adds a lovely flavor to salads. So the endive will be eaten quite soon, and this is arugula, which makes a lovely flavor, again, in salads, in sandwiches, very popular in Europe, especially Italy. These lettuce, I will just plant out a few in that area, and in this little container, I have grown individual 3 different types of salad, and they are grown in these little capsules, and they will come out like that, and each of those will be planted quite deeply right up to where the growth is, and those will be head lettuce. Now, in the rest of the garden, I am going to, that's arugula, I'm going to seed. The first thing that'll go in is this Malabar spinach. I've never grown it before. It is a climbing spinach, and it's going to go in at the back, on the fence again. So that will be put in to about here. That'll be Malabar spinach. And then the cucumbers will go in this little center area. And they also will climb, the fruits will hang down, and this is a great space saver. Now, all the rest is going to be seeded. There are carrots, spinach, the nasturtiums all along the front, more lettuce, because we'll eat that lettuce very quickly, carrots, and this is corn salad. And that, again, I don't want to plant too much of, just a small amount at a time. Radishes, just a few at a time, replant every 10 days or so. Put those over there. Loose leaf lettuce called red sails has a lovely color, again, a great addition to a salad bowl. Now, this is Master Chef Blend, and I will scatter the seed in quite a wide area, and there will be a whole lot of different types that come up. So that can go in maybe up here in front of the cucumber, and here I have the pak choy, and that can go in here. And there are still several more, but I'm going to start planting those right now, and then I will do the seeding.
Frances, you sure have selected a windy, sunny day for this planting, and I brought you a few things that might be helpful.
Good. Oh, good. Fiber pots to go on top of the tomatoes. We keep all our old fiber pots, bottoms out of them, and they are great for protecting newly planted things, such as tomatoes and later on peppers and so on. And it's just to protect them against the wind and the sun until they have established themselves out of doors.
Now, I've got some material here which goes under the trade name of Plant Protect, I believe, and it is a porous, very strong, very light material. It's principally designed to allow rain to come through and to allow the sunlight to penetrate, but it also will protect plants up to about 3 degrees of frost. But what we're going to do now is to put it down, albeit that it is rather windy, and we may take off, and put this sheet over some of these plants.
I'll go down to this end.
I think you will agree that
It's a windy day.
Anthos is beginning to look like a June bride at this point. And it's quite appropriate to put a sheet on a bed. Don't you think so, Anthos?
Oh, yes. No matter what kind of bed.
So, it will also help with certain insects that could come blowing in,
Down.
such as the cabbage butterfly that would perhaps wish to lay her eggs.
And Larry, the little fly that does so much damage to the onions, that lays her eggs, that hatch out and become the root maggot that attacks onions.
Are you doing all right, your end?
Well, I'm having a little trouble.
Well, I thought that making
There.
a bed was women's work, but I seem to be much
No,
better
no,
at it.
no longer.
No longer?
No.
Oh, okay.
There we are.
You know, one of these days I've got to give them the vote. How's
Now,
that?
how's your end?
I think it's doing very well.
I think we need just a little more. Here, have you got another?
A few more rocks?
A few more
Sure.
rocks just for this part here and for the other side. Up to here is fine. Don't pull too hard. That's
Like
fine.
One more rock.
Another here. Yeah. And then I'll put one in at the other end. Now, I think that's okay. That'll do us, Larry.
I think, Anthos, that it's time for us to say goodbye. Do come and see us again.
Stay tuned for Golden Land next here on Channel 17.
Funding for From a Country Garden is made possible by Lily Ponds Water Gardens, Lily Ponds, Maryland, and Brookshire, Texas. Mail order source for your water garden needs. Garden Way, Troy, New York. Makers of and the mail order source for the Troy-built rototiller and the Tough Cut High Wheel Mower. And Park Seed Company, Greenwood, South Carolina. Mail order source for flower, vegetable, and herb seed, helping gardens grow since 1868.